Hi, welcome to Cebu, and a somewhat noisy studio because I'm actually outside on the front of my house. Thinking strategically. This is the topic. It seems from the literature, thinking strategically is really about using tools. Those tools, how do I express this? Are you aware of the thinking, of the theorizing that was behind those tools? Because that theorizing, that theory, impacts on your thinking, whether you are consciously aware of it or not. And what are the limitations of that thinking? We are rethinking, strategic thinking. The strategy literature, well, it's crazy, absolutely crazy to attempt to characterize it in a simple way. But if you read the opening paragraphs of almost any treatise on strategy, you will find arguments setting out the different perspectives that the author has been considering, what their limitations are, and the merits of the forthcoming proposals. So let's be a little bit crazy. Let's follow that pattern for the moment, huh? Maybe it all started from economics and a desire to explain why some industries, some businesses performed better than others. The thinking being, if we could understand that, we could do better. So, Strategy 101. Michael Porter, to be more precise, 5 forces model of industry structure. My proposal, my contention here is that this is just pure microeconomics. I mean, bless him, Porter's very clever because he's taken the implications of the theory of competition in microeconomic theory and gone, boom, look at this. These are the threat of new entrants. Well, actually, it's not. What he has listed and what I'm showing you here are the barriers, not the threats. The things that would keep you safe. Anyway, and then it goes on. Let's have a look. You'll have a hard time in the industry if your suppliers have high bargaining power relative to you. Yeah, well, that's common sense. But just pause and read what each of these things are. Okay? The relative size, the differences or distinctions between competitors that people can recognize, sensitivity to price, a buyer's ability to use substitutes, and their availability or switching costs. Now, the issue for me is this. You teach this strategy stuff to students, they go, oh, yeah. If they've done any economics, they recognize it and think, yeah, that's familiar. It's very, very difficult to operationalize. It's extremely difficult to be able to measure or to assess. But we'll come to that in a moment. Are there substitutes for the thing that you are trying to sell? If there are, tough. And then we saw bargaining power of buyers of your product. Well, what about your suppliers? Do they have bargaining power? Probably. But what is it relative to yours? To your buying power? Oh, what fun. And then there's the idea of rivalry. The kind of competitiveness. Well, developed the five forces model principally in competitor strategy, but then outlined again in competitive advantage. In 1996, Porter wrote another paper entitled What is Strategy? And it's a paper about strategic positioning. Okay? This is an important idea. What's interesting is he wrote that in such a way as he positioned the paper amongst all the other papers. Less so about the individual businesses, much more so about a network of activities. And the challenge to the individual business is to gain dominance in key elements of that network. There. IKEA, is probably the most easily recognizable of the examples he gives to those of us in, I was going to say UK, Europe, but increasingly here in Asia as well. You recognize IKEA as a presence. And he pulls out these 4 black circles as being absolutely key activities. He contends, there's a nice word, he contends that the white circles support and enable the black ones, but the black ones are it. Okay. There's an issue though. Daddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? Going to be an edit here. The issue is this. Porter has presented this, somewhat retrospectively, as IKEA's deliberate positioning to gain the commercial advantages that they have. In our rethinking strategic thinking, this is a good place to mark something. Porter suggests, is implying they did this deliberately. Where we are going is to recognize that this configuration of value activities in the value network, in the activity network, has emerged out of the beliefs and the work values and the practices of people in IKEA. Okay? It was not a deliberate positioning strategy. It's the way we do things in IKEA. But more of that perhaps later. In the way that Porter's doing this, there's 2 problems. It's outside in. The quality of your analysis and the quality of your decision making as a result of that is absolutely dependent on how well you are able to do your research and how clear your analysis is. The other thing is, it's going to seem a bit strange after what I've just said, but there's little attention to the capability of the business. Bearing in mind that Porter is saying, this is planned, you are planning to achieve this configuration. And if you are not paying attention to what you're good at, you've no chance of making a plan that you can actually achieve. Anyway. And then the other notion is, still, given the origins of Porter's thinking and the way he's worked it through, we are considering only economic elements, only entities recognized or describable in economic terms. And this, for me, is another great big hole. a fundamental issue. Strategy cannot be distinct and separate from issues of leading an organisation. Now, Porter and some of the other authors that we're still to look at, they see leading as being managing the change that is necessary to achieve the desired configuration. Leading is not about implementing. Leading is about leading an organisation. Including thinking strategically. Rethinking. Leading strategically. Oh. So, maybe instead we look at the business and try and understand from within the business what's enabling it to do stuff. Treatise is perhaps the best known economist who's trying to explain what capability or what asset within an organisation explains superior performance by that organisation. So the emphasis is on identifying strengths, rather like Porter's activity network, and how these combine to secure superior performance. We must understand how these so-called capabilities link to the environment, they connect to the environment. How is it that they are relevant to the environment? And can that relevance be sustained? Again, this is an analytical from outside the organisation. This is a review. How do I explain this? I know what it is. This is like watching a film of your organisation, not being in your organisation, understanding what's going on around you while you are filmed. The idea of dynamic capability. Capabilities are only ever temporary because the environment and competitors, they're always moving on. Capability is in the context of a market space. The organisation is more capable or less capable within the conditions of that market space. To be dynamic and to remain capable, there has to be a connection into the market space and feedback about how things are going within that market space or from that market space. And this in turn, this connection and feedback then has to be connected to the development of the capabilities. And if it cannot be, by thinking, connected, no dynamic capability. All right. So, what do these guys say? What do these guys think? Well, bearing in mind this is a looking from outside of the organisation, not from within, this is what they have to say. Sense. Identify opportunities and perhaps group these into technological possibilities and be thinking about how to shape them in technology development. But there is a sensing. This tickles me the way they lay out. Then there is the strategy. The strategy is about anticipating your competitors and their reactions to stuff. And then the other element is as you develop intellectual property or you own, you need to defend that intellectual property. Okay? I love this wording. seize, design, redefine the business model, commit resources. This, when you look at it like this is only valid if you believe in managing or controlling organizational change. That is an issue which is really up for grabs, and I'm sure we will have a look at that in another video later on. But for the moment, it's seize, design and refine the business model and commit resources to that. And then you get into the transition, transform, realign the structure, realign the culture. Oh dear, so you bring existing capabilities into line, you align your existing capabilities, and you invest in new and additional capabilities. You can tell from my voice tone, I am not a fan of this way of thinking at all. You'll be asking me soon, what are you a fan of? Well, I'd just ask you to stop, think about your own organisation, and how to express this? Think of the experience of being in it when some beast at the top of the organisation designs, redesigns and refines your business model. And then they are using some logic to realign the structure, to realign the culture. Who wins, who loses here? My contention will be generally it's the organisation itself, because it loses... Oh dear, what am I trying to say? The people who work in the organisation are not automatons, okay? They're not automatons. They will work to a minimum standard when they're under pressure. If they're not under pressure, if they're really, really enjoying themselves and they're finding it exciting doing new stuff, they will way overperform what has been designed for them in the organisational space. Hamel and Prahalad, when they first launched their Competing for the Future book, and there are a series of articles in Harvard Business Review, and this stuff was so different. It was so much about help your people build a vision of your business, excite them with the vision of your business, enable them to enact to bring that about. Okay? Now, as we read, as we review, we look back on their writing. We've lost that bit. Mind you, it's probably just promotional hype anyway. And we come back to this. Their work was based on studies of Japanese businesses. Now, Japanese businesses are interesting because they don't have strategy. According to Porter, they don't do what I say, says Porter. And their apparent behaviour was very difficult for him to account for. Hamel and Prahalad explained that competition in a marketplace, competition for dominance of an existing marketplace, is short-term, it's thinking and it's irrelevant. If you focus on that alone, you're dead. Their thesis. They argue that competition is a race for resources, especially for resources which enable the accumulation of capability and productive capacity, new technology. And the phrase they use somewhere or another is that blow competition away. For example, if the race is for resources, the race is for capability, I know what, we'll look at photocopy manufacture. Oh, right. Or just because we will. They talk about a Japanese company that built superior print engines. They worked very, very hard to produce better quality, lower cost. And those print engines went into their copiers and they had a superior performance as a photocopier. Guess what? Let's sell them to our competitors. Porter, you know, people who think like Porter will be going, blah. Well, yeah, but the thinking here from Hamel and Prahal is just really cute. Here you've got a very valuable component of a final product, the photocopier. If you sell that to your competitors, obviously for a good commercial price, they will think that they are getting a superior performance in the print engine, which they will be. They may or may not get a cost advantage buying from this business. Deal goes through. The way that the business has really won is that it has disabled its competitors' ability to develop, to push forward print engine technology. And the competitor business become more and more dependent on our prime business for its print engine. Cute, huh? The business gains virtual market share and it disables, it erodes technical capability amongst its competitors. Oh, John. However, what's difficult on a video presentation or a lecture, you know, bearing in mind these are my old lecture notes, or based on my old lecture notes, Hamel and Prahalad's writing very much positions the reader as if they are within the organisation. Hamel and Prahalad are stressing how it is people within the organisation, looking from within the organisation, that are developing the strategy stuff. An example, a reason they give is that the traditions of service in key appointments in technology and marketing in Japanese company, the length of time somebody spends in an appointment, spends in a job, is much longer than in the USA and in Europe. And what Hamel and Prahalad are saying is this leads to a much deeper understanding of the technology, if you like, the traditions and the trends within the technology, the way in which the technology may or may not be developing and can be redeveloped and redefined, and the way in which that fits to our product, our portfolio of products, our future market spaces. Did you hear that? The way things are engaging, the way in which we can be transforming things to impact on our future business spaces. In a way, what they're doing is looking for changing technologies in a way which makes life much, much more difficult for the competitors. Dear. Sounds as though I've lost, well, not I've lost the thread, it sounds as though I've not communicated the thread. The businesses, according to Hamel and Prahalad, are about changing the nature of the industry that they are participating in. That's right, got it. Note, they are changing the nature of the industry. They're not following an industry pattern with new product. So, the foregoing, these have been the dominant ways of thinking. But there's been a shift. And there's been a shift from analysis and prescription. Analysis, description, and then prescription include an embedded view of the way the world works. That's how you get the prescription of what to do. And there's been a shift away from that to an understanding of the way in which we understand our strategic world. The way in which we understand our world and the way in which we act within it. And this is a view which embraces the emergent properties of organizations, the emergent properties of systems. It's a focus not directly on the outcome. Okay? It's a focus on the preconditions. Do you like that? The preconditions that enable the outcome to emerge. No, I like that stuff. This new way of thinking involves an intimate understanding of the territory that you dwell in. Let's illustrate, let's contrast that. Now, Cheer and Holt use a piece of writing by Ingold, and this is quoting Cheer and Holt. Oh, I've got a limp microphone. So why did you just choose to die? Thank you. We'll try that bit again. Ingold suggests that the subtle but vital difference between navigation, that's using a map a la Porter, and wayfinding, that is to say, dwelling in the territory where you are, right? And finding your way because of your knowledge of the territory. So let us first imagine that you and a companion are walking in an area of countryside that you're not familiar with, you don't know. And so you have a map. You have a map of that area. And you get to somewhere which is really rather nice. It's a nice view. And your friend says, "No, where's this? Where are we?" And you scan the territory. So you're looking around, you're scanning. And then you look at the map and you're looking for the little symbols. Okay? So you're looking for the correlating features. And then finally, you point to a place on the map. And you say, "We are here." Okay, you say, "We are here." But you're not. You're not on the map. You're not in the map. The map is not where you are standing. The map is a representation. It's a poor diagram of spatial relations within that territory. The real territory, the where you are standing, has much, much more. So, no map. That's gone. Consider alternatively that you're walking with your friend around the countryside where you lived, where you were brought up. And when your companion asks, where are we? Well, at first you'll say, well, it's... You'll give the place a name, which I hope isn't... But very quickly you follow up with a story, a personal story about your own association with that place, with the people that you knew, with the things that happened. The things that happen as part of your growing up. Now, in this second instance, you have no need to consult a map. I mean, you actually have in your head, but you don't consult the map. Because your present whereabouts are intimately linked to your life history, to your experiences in this place. It's linked to your experience and the way it has shaped your personality, your sense of identity, and your predispositions. This is not about fixing your location in an artificial space using some artificial reference point. It simply is not about that. Remember learning the preconditions for your plants in your little garden to grow when you were a child. Remember nurturing them. Remember giving them water. Remember giving them fertilizer. But could you control their growth? Could you make them grow? Oh, I remember being given parsley, tomatoes, what else? Oh, do you know, I can't remember. Other little flowers to grow, and I would water them and give them things. But they didn't all grow. There's no way I could make them grow. You know, it was, you do this, you do this, you do this, preconditions, and then they do or they don't. For this little lad, this is not about maps and positions. It's not about managing the plants. It's about learning how his garden works. And this little girl is learning how to nurture. And between them, they're holding a view, or rather they're expressing a view of looking after the preconditions for their plants to grow. She is learning how to nurture. And this lucky lass is learning how to recover the rewards of their investments. Let's return to the idea of dwelling. Because your present whereabouts, in our example earlier on, are linked to your life history. Dwelling is significant because it is about the formation of our worldview. It's about the formation of the way in which we engage. So can you sense, or can you get a sense rather, of how people in a business grow this sense of dwelling in a market space within their business and within a broader environment? Contemplate it for a moment or two, maybe thinking about your own business. The other thing you might choose to do is to look at a piece on Wikipedia about the Games Workshop. The Games Workshop is an interesting business in Nottingham. People got involved, well, started and got involved in the Games Workshop because they really, really loved gaming. That's good. That's good. And they did well. So well that people thought, oh, I've learned how to do this. I can leave. I can go and I can do similar things somewhere else. And in doing that, they left Gaming Workshop, but they infringed their intellectual property. And Gaming Workshop took a view that they were not going to tolerate that. That in turn led to some real splits and arguments, because there are those who loved gaming and thought gamers were great and gamers could do what they liked in gaming. And there were those who were thinking, no, hang on, we've got this big investment here and we need to protect it. So what are we going to do? The little article tracks that, and it gives you a sense of those tensions and maybe the way they have been resolved. Maybe. Imagine owning a croft. What could you grow on your croft? The picture gives you a fair idea. Grass. Hey. What could you grow? And what are the preconditions for that growth? In the crofting community, you must understand the politics. There's not only the politics of the small and usually very close community within which your croft sits, so they're the other people, the other crofters around, but there's also the politics associated with the Crofting Commission. And this is about policy towards crofts and the support of crofts and the way in which the crofts support life in rural Scotland. It's about policy and regulation. How do you grow the relationships and build access to sources of income? How do you grow relationships and access to markets? For produce and for tourists. If you want to put the question this way, how do you farm tourists? So this whole thing about rethinking strategic thinking, simply put, it's not about analysing, choosing a position and making change happen. Not about that at all. But it is about what we do to enable the things that we would like to emerge. What do we do to enable things to emerge? It is about having an intimate understanding of your territory, about dwelling, so that you get to understand the way in which things emerge. And more importantly, it's about coming to understand how things work. What's the process of things unraveling and feeding back and feeding forwards? How do these things happen? Because with that understanding, you have a way of knowing how to proceed. A way of knowing how to proceed, or everyday coping. The idea of knowing how to proceed, the idea of everyday coping, is something that we will return to when we reconsider in more detail the work of Chia and Holt. So we have been rethinking strategic thinking. And in the next part, we are going to think about all sorts of things. And I'm still rewriting, still editing the next part. I think I'm on my 5th generation at the moment. But essentially, it's about how do we get to know what we get to know? What is knowledge? What are the different images that we have of knowledge? And how have these images impacted on the idea of strategy, the theory of strategy, the way we do strategy? So it's going to be a theory bit. And then after that, I think we'll return to this much more pragmatic, how do we do stuff? How do we come to know what to do? How do we cope? You guys take care. Bye-bye.